is that maritime traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, the route this tanker would have taken, has dropped dramatically since the weekend and is still minimal due to the threat of attacks on commercial shipping. And remember, this narrow waterway is the exit point for a fifth of the world's supplies of oil and natural gas.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm sure you've heard about the Strait of Hormuz. That's going to be my video today. So, that tiny strait is 33 kilometers. That's basically 20 miles. And you might be thinking 20 miles, oh, that's huge. Let's remember that the shipping lane, because not the whole area is dredged. If you understand the way it works in the sea, there is water, and underneath the sea, the sand is dredged to allow ships to pass through. So the shipping lane for the Strait of Hormuz is 2 miles in each direction. So 2 miles in that direction and 2 miles in this direction, and there's a 2 mile buffer in between. So to, fro, and 2 miles buffer in between. Bear in mind, some of these oil tankers are huge, really, really big. Go to Lagos Harbor and you see how huge those ones are, even small. So these ships only have 2 miles to maneuver. So that tells you how narrow that strait is. So the Strait of Hormuz is located between Iran, Oman, and the UAE, United Arab Emirates. And 20% of the world's oil supply passes through the strait. 20%. That 20% is 17 million barrels of oil. That's a lot. To put that into perspective, Nigeria produces 1.5 million barrels of oil. So 17 million passes through that Strait of Hormuz. So that's like 15 times of what the whole Nigeria produces. So that tells you how important that area is. So for UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Qatar, 90% of their oil exports passes through the Strait of Hormuz. 90%. So imagine that place is blocked. Imagine there is war and Iran, well, there is war. Iran blocks the Strait of Hormuz. That means 90% of crude oil from UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Qatar cannot pass through. Bear in mind, these countries I mentioned, they are landlocked. So that is the only way out. It's like a cul-de-sac, like a dead end. So that's the only way out to export the oil, crude oil. Tells you how dire the situation is. So if Iran blocks the straits, the first to suffer will be India, and that's 85% of India's oil imports come through the Strait of Hormuz. 85%. So everything, crude oil is everything. For the farmers, for tractors, for trucks, for heavy machinery, for big companies, everything is about crude oil. That's what breaks down to others: petrol, diesel, aviation fuel, etc., etc. So if 85% of India's oil imports cannot come through because that place is blocked, that means India is grounded. So second most affected country is China. China imports 10 million barrels of oil through the straits. 10 million barrels of oil. That's 40% of China's oil imports. 40%. So almost half of China's oil imports will be blocked. If China's economy is affected, we all know what's going to happen. That means the whole world is affected. Because for those who do not know, China is like the world's supermarket. Look at everything in your house. Look at your sitting room, your bedroom, your kitchen. 80% of that, up to 80% of everything in your house comes from China. So imagine if China cannot get the crude oil to work its factories, how would they be able to provide all these things for the world? So the next to be affected will be Japan, which imports 75% of its oil through the Strait of Hormuz. 75%, that's huge. And bear in mind, Japan is a big industrial economy. They have a massive car manufacturing sector there. So if 75% of Japan's oil imports is not able to come through, you know how the big effect that will have to Japanese economy. That's the third largest economy in the world. So next is Saudi Arabia, as I mentioned earlier. And after that is Pakistan, which gets 90% of its oil through the Strait of Hormuz. 90% of Pakistan's oil comes through the Strait of Hormuz. Though I should mention here that Pakistan is next door to Iran, so I'm sure they can bring trucks through the land borders. So next we affected will be France, Germany, and Italy. They get 10%. So that's not much. But in conclusion, this small area of sea, which is 33 kilometers in width, but the actual sailing width is 2 miles. So it holds enough power to shake a lot of economies. It's going, like I mentioned earlier, India, China, Japan, Pakistan, all major economies will be affected. So, guys, that's why everyone is clamoring for the Strait of Hormuz not to be disrupted because it's going to affect the whole world. No one's going to escape it.
Well, as this ship tracker shows, traffic has all but halted since the start of the war. Iran has threatened